Hi there. I'm David Sheeler. I'm pastor of St. Andrew Church in Tampa, Florida. And I've been thinking about a quote I remember from Mark Twain, how he said that it wasn't the things in the Bible that he did not understand that bothered him. It was the things that he did understand that disturbed him the most. And I think about that. A lot of times we worry about how in the world could Noah put two of every kind of animal into a big boat and survive a big global flood for 40 days. Or how is it that Jesus could not have a biological father? Those can be difficult things to understand, and yet sometimes it's the straightforward things that we struggle with the most. Like what I read this week from the letter of James, the book of James in the New Testament, the 2nd chapter. It says, how can you believe and say you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and yet play favorites? He goes on there to admonish the early Christians about how they are treating the wealthy one way and the poor another, showing favoritism to those who seem to have a little bit of cash and rejecting or at least ignoring those who don't have as much in this world. I was thinking about that, remembering a story that I heard years ago about a pastor who knew he was having a celebrity visit his congregation in worship one morning. He knew because that TV celebrity's nephew was being baptized. And so that celebrity, of course, as you might expect, sauntered into worship service and into the congregation late, of course, and made a little bit of a show of it, plopped himself down in the middle of the congregation. And so that pastor, seeing that celebrity, actually stopped what he was doing, left the pulpit, walked down into the congregation and shook that celebrity's hand. How can you say you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and yet play favorites? Of course, we might say that we might not do that. I mean, we'd be fair, wouldn't we? We're kind to everybody. We don't show favoritism to one group or another. And we certainly are kind to folks, even if they don't have quite as much as we do. I thought about that today because I just got back a little while ago from going with a bunch of guys down to Feeding America, the food bank here in Tampa. And while we were there sorting through food, they told us that 700,000 people in the Tampa Bay area go to bed every night not sure where their next meal is coming from. They call it food insecurity. And so as I sorted through all that food, the canned goods, the dry goods, I thought about that and I realized, I don't know any of those people. I don't know any of those 700,000 people who don't know where their next meal is coming from. And as I stood there sorting through food with all sorts of other middle-class folks, I imagined that they didn't know any of those folks either. We'd gone there to do something good for them, and yet we didn't know any of them, much less be able to play favorites. We didn't even know them in order to play favorites or not. How can you say you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and yet play favorites? And yet we are convinced that, or I'm convinced at least, that if we do connect, if we do have relationships with rich and poor, then lives really can be changed. I'm mindful of a great quote from one of my favorites, Shane Claiborne, who said once that he believed that if the rich meet the poor, then our riches and our constant attempts to clamor after more stuff and worry about our jobs and our homes and our security, well, all that will go away. And if the poor meet the rich, then poverty would become a thing of the past pretty quickly. How can you say you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and yet play favorites? Anyway, that's what I've been thinking. I'll see you Sunday.